Hello all, and welcome back to the second part of this tutorial where we are going to explain how to create a curve attractor. And to do it, we're going to use this bottle eye model on Rhino, and we are going to create a pattern on this surface that change. We're going to create the curve. We're going to create a pattern that changes depending on its proximity to the curve. Okay, so the first thing that we have to do, well, I'm going to hide or turn off the layers that we don't need. Okay, and then the first thing that we have to do is take this surface, it's a cut surface, and take it to Grasshopper so we can manipulate it. And for that we're gonna use a param that it's right here, and I'm going to right click on it and set one surface, and then we can manipulate it. Okay, I'm going to turn the one on Rhino off so we can have a better look at it. So the thing that we're gonna do is put some spheres that change their size on this surface. Okay, first we're gonna set up the points or the frames where we're gonna put all those spheres, and then we are gonna see how we can create that curve within the surface, all in Grasshopper. So to create the spots where we're gonna put the spheres, we got one component that it's on surfaces, and it's called surface frames. Okay, and what this does, see that there's one input that it's called surface, and what it does, it creates planes tangent to that surface. Okay, and that we can use to create any object on them. Depending on the count that we put on U or V, we can have more in one direction or the other one. I'm going to create a couple of sliders from 20 to maybe 100, and copy and paste them. Okay, and now we can see that if we change those values, we will have more frames in one direction or the other. Okay, the more frames we put, the more data we're going to be handling, or the computer is going to be handling, so it's going to be a heavier file. Okay, so keep that in mind depending on the on how powerful your computer is. So the thing that we have here is that we might have a bit of an issue near the edges. Okay, if we create a sphere here and it's too big, it might get too close from the edge. So we want to control that. We don't want some of the frames to get too close to the edge. Okay, depending on their position. So for that, we are going to use a component that it's called cool pattern. It's on sets. Okay, and what this does, it removes a specific pattern, an item from a list. Okay, depending on a condition we give to it. So what we need to do is create or we need to get this curve, the outer curve of this surface. Okay, and depending on the proximity that those frames have to it, then we will have to remove them. Okay, so basically we need to measure the distance that is between that edge to the frames, okay? And depending on the distance that we put on, we're going to be removing some frames or keep them, okay? So the first thing that we have to do now is, well, we need to get that edge so we can work with it. And there's a component that it's called breadth edges. Okay, and that what it does, it just shows us the edges of a breadth. They can be interior or naked. See that as soon as I click on it, we can see all the edge of this surface lighten up. Okay, so that being done, we need to measure that distance that we set. So what we're gonna do is get a surface, sorry, curve closest point, which is the one we explained on the previous part. Okay, and the curve is the naked edge, and the points are these frames. The other thing that we have to do, see that by default this component gives us a tree. Okay, it's a tree that has as many branches as the components on U and as many items on each branch as the slider on V. So what we're gonna do is convert it into a list. We explained this in previous tutorials. I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to flatten it. And what that does, it's converting a tree into a full list. Okay, that's going to be easier for us to manipulate it. Okay, so we have the distance to those curves. Okay, sorry, to each of those frames. What we have to do is find something that tells us if the distance is bigger than x number, we're gonna get rid of it or not. Okay, so here we have the larger than. I'm gonna take the larger than and put it here. Okay, and the first number are gonna be those distances, and the second number is gonna be any number that I want. I'm gonna make a slider to control it, for instance from 0 to maybe, I don't know, 50 with a few decimals, and connect it to the second number. And I'm going to get a panel and see what's happening in here. So we have the option to get on the output the larger than or the equal to. So all the numbers, all the distances that are major than another one, to the second one, are going to be true. So we're going to keep them on the list. As soon as I start pulling this, they start changing to false. Okay, and what it does, it will get rid of them. Okay, that's the pattern I'm going to connect to the cool pattern input. So what that's gonna do is remove XX pattern from that list. The list of frames that I need is this one. Okay, I'm going to turn this off. and this as well. Okay, and now we see only the ones that we are keeping. I'm going to zoom this out, and as soon you can see that as soon as I start moving this, I start removing frames. Okay, so I'm getting rid, the further I move it, the bigger distance I'm getting rid of the edge, okay, to the closest frame or point. Okay, so I'm getting rid of more frames. So I have some margin or offset that I can work with. Okay, so that's what that's gonna do is help me to avoid any sphere that I create and put it here. Okay, so what we need is this sphere. I'm going to go get these spheres, but I'm not gonna connect them just yet because they're gonna be very heavy. I mean, they're gonna make the file very heavy, so it's gonna run slowly. Or actually, I will connect them. Okay, and now I'm gonna turn this off. And there are those spheres. They're very tiny. Okay, we'll have to work with the radius. But what we said is that we are gonna create a curve on the surface, and depending on how close that curve is to each of those spheres, okay, the size of them is going to change. Okay, so to create that curve, okay, we are gonna get we're gonna do it with the interpolate that we have used before. Okay, what it does is we put we assign some points, and what it does, it creates a curves joining them. Okay, so now we need the points where we need to connect this, and the points that we're gonna need to connect this, we're gonna get them with a very interesting component that it's called the MD slider. So what this is gonna do, it's just gonna create a point on that surface, okay, that we are going to manipulate. We're gonna be able to move it with this slider. Okay, for that we're gonna go to surface closest point, or maybe no, I just changed my mind, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna use another component that is this one, evaluate surface. Okay, so basically I'm gonna get this surface and connect it to the surface input, and this point I'm going to connect it here. Okay, I cannot see it yet, so what's going on, or where is this point? I cannot see it, I cannot locate it, but it's, yeah. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to right click on surface. As you can see, this the domain of the MD slider, it goes from 0 to 1 in both U and V directions. Okay, so what I have to do is change the domain of this surface by right clicking it and reparameterizing it. Okay, and that way what this component is going to do is transform the size of that surface within a domain from 0 to 1, so it's easier for me to manipulate it. And there you can see that point that I have just created. And if I move it, okay, and if I go to the upper corner, I'm going to go to the upper corner of that surface, and so on. If I go more or less in the middle, I'll be in the middle. But that point is always going to be on that surface. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create more of this. I'm going to get 3 more of these. And I'm going to distribute them along the surface so we can have that curve. We could have as many of these as we want, but the important thing is that we know where we are, the order where, it's very important that we connect them in order. So when we connect the output of points to the vertices of this curve, actually I'm going to do it now. Now there's nothing happening because there's only one point and it cannot create a curve from only one point. So I'm going to connect the second one. And we cannot see the curve because it's in the same position, but as soon as I start moving it, you can start seeing that curve. So I'm going to put this one somewhere above here. Okay, and then the next one, I'm going to put it somewhere down here, and I'm going to connect this one. See, there is the curve. And then I'm going to change the position of this last one. I'll put it somewhere near the other corner and connect it there. Okay, there is our curve. The thing is that those points are points in space. I mean, they are on the surface, but they are to create for the curve. They are points in space. So what the program does, it's just connecting them, avoiding. The program doesn't care if the curve is on the surface or not. So what we're going to do now is drag that curve to the surface, and for that we're going to use a component called pull curve, and what this does, it just pulls the curve to the surface. I'm going to turn this off. And take this one a little bit lower. Okay, because if we take them too far out, if we take them too close to the edge, they go out of the curve. Okay, sorry, from the surface. And there we have the curve on the surface. Okay, we could add more points, or we can change the position of them whenever we want. Okay, perfect. Now that that's done, we have the curve and we have the radius. The only thing that we need to do now, I'm going to turn this off. And the last thing that we need to do is what we explained. We need to measure the distance of those frames to this curve so we can create the radius. So I'm going to double click, and what we needed is the curve closest point. Okay, so the points are these ones, and the curve is this one. Okay, and now that we have the distances, we need to do the remap. Okay, that we have explained in previous tutorials. So what we're going to do is change or escalate those values of distances, so we can change them according to the to radius values. Okay, and then our target domain. So now the radius they have, now the spheres they have a radius of 1. So I think 1 could be the smallest radius that we want. So we can create a slider that goes from 1 maybe to, let's say, 20. And then we can manipulate them. So we can go, I'm going to copy this. And one will go to the domain start and the domain end. And I'm going to turn this off. And now I'm going to connect those values to the radius of that sphere. Okay, and now we can see as they change, we can change the size of those spheres, we can change the position of that curve, and depending on that, we're going to have a pattern or another one. The other thing that we could do if we want to get the surface with the holes as well, then we need, we could use this component that it's called trim solid. So what this is going to do is cut this, the surface using these spheres. So the shape I want to cut is the surface, and the cutters are going to be each sphere. Okay, now I'm going to hide the main surface, or the original surface. And we could bake them. I'm going to group them. And then I can bake as well the Okay, so now we have the whole bottle with that pattern, and we can change the shape of the pattern, the size of the spheres. We could even change the object and put a different one, okay, if we wanted to. And yeah, that's the advantage of using Grasshopper. You can change the whole design by just changing some parameters. Okay, thanks a lot for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and leave any comments, or if any doubt, you can ask me on the comments and I will try to reply as quick as possible. Thanks a lot and see you next time.